Hey, welcome back to Bandwagon fans. This is Jeff, and tonight I'll be reviewing Seberg. Now, because of the pandemic and my own life circumstances, I'm doing this review months after seeing the film and a bit of personal housekeeping for myself. So, Seberg is a 2019 biopic about the late actress Jean Seberg, star of the French New Wave film Breathless, and civil rights activist who became a target of the Nixon administration, J. Edgar Hoover, and the FBI's COINTELPRO, or Counterintelligence Program, an illegal program in the FBI designed to discredit leftist and civil rights organizations. The film stars Kristen Stewart as Seberg and is directed by Benedict Andrews. Now, since this is a biopic and historical, I'll be talking freely about every aspect of this film and its historical context and accuracy. So, spoiler warning. Now, before talking about the film, I believe it is important to give it a modern context and why a film like this is so important, and ultimately why its complete failure is such a missed opportunity. In August of 2017, the FBI released a statement to over 18,000 law enforcement agencies which stated, "The FBI assesses it is very likely a black identity extremist perceptions of police brutality against African Americans spurred an increase in premeditated, retaliatory, and lethal violence against the law enforcement and will very likely serve as justification for such violence. Also, the FBI assesses it is very likely incidents of alleged police abuse against African Americans since then have continued to feed the resurgence in ideologically motivated violent criminal activity within the BIE movement." Now, this statement is being used to justify the surveillance of black civil rights organizations such as Black Lives Matters and has been questioned by the National Organization for Black Law Enforcement Executives. To date, there is no evidence of a Moorish sovereign citizen movement or a black extremist ideology movement, and the characterization from the FBI that there is one is eerily reminiscent of its justification for the COINTELPRO of the 60s. Now, I just want you to keep that in mind as we talk about the film and its historical reality. As said by George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So the film opens with a reenactment from the ending of Jean Seberg's first film, St. Joan, in which Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, and the real-life Seberg was also burned due to a careless director. This incident makes for an obvious allegory of Seberg's life, and she commented on it, "I have two memories of St. Joan. The first was being burned at the stake in the picture. The second was being burned at the stake by the critics." Now, the film follows Seberg, now a legitimate star in the French New Wave of film, as she returns to Hollywood. A chance encounter with Hakeem Jamal of the Black Panthers, played by Anthony Mackie, leads to an affair with Jamal, a relationship with the Black Panthers to which Seberg provided financial support, and the attention of the FBI. Vince Vaughn and Jack O'Connell play Carl Kowalski and Jack Solomon, the two FBI agents tasked with surveilling Seberg. Kristen Stewart is about as good as casting as one could hope for Seberg, and it's clear she is committed to the actress and the story. It's also good to see a movie that attempts to shed light on what the FBI was doing during this period. Ultimately, however, the script fails both Stewart and the real-life Jean Seberg in two ways. First, we never get more than a superficial glimpse at Seberg's motivations. She is presented as a privileged, overindulged white girl whose political leanings are a result of youthful rebelliousness rather than any deep-seated political conviction and value structure. An argument could be made that the real Jean Seberg was a forerunner of fourth-wave feminism, recognizing that the same forces that oppressed her career in Hollywood were the same forces oppressing blacks throughout society. But this film never comes close to that or any other insight. Second, the film creates a fictional character, Jack Solomon, in a grotesque attempt to whitewash the actions of the FBI. Solomon is morally conflicted about what is being done to Seberg and eventually tries to warn her about the FBI's actions. Unfortunately, none of this is real, and it was irresponsible to work this bit of fiction into the narrative. The facts are that under COINTELPRO, the FBI conducted a several-year campaign of terror against Jean Seberg. They spied on her, broke into her house, planted false stories about the father of her unborn child about her, and got her blacklisted from Hollywood. All of this was done to discredit her and her association with the Black Panthers. The FBI terrorized Gene Seberg and countless other American citizens in an attempt to silence specific political ideology. This conduct should be dealt with honestly and frankly, but this movie tries to have it both ways, using the conduct to create the conflict of the narrative while also minimizing the harm of this conduct in an ill-conceived attempt at portraying the FBI fairly. There is no fair way to address the FBI's conduct other than to state it for exactly what it was, denounce it, and take steps to ensure it could never happen again. Unfortunately, what we have seen in the months since the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor is that law enforcement, the political infrastructure, and the media still have a clear political preference and are willing to work together to silence opposition to that preference. 50 years later, and we are still making the same mistakes as a country. Overall, 4 out of 10 for Seberg. I really wanted this movie to be better. Gene Seberg and the Black Panthers deserve better. I do recommend people watch it, but only because there are so few films out there that try to wrestle with the government's actions in the 60s and 70s. However, anyone watching this should have an understanding of the historical inaccuracies this film delivers. So I hope you enjoyed my discussion about it, and leave your comment below of what you thought about Seberg. You can follow me on Twitter at BBWFans and catch quick snapshot reviews on TikTok at Bandwagon_fans. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons and get on the bandwagon.